Hey y'all, and welcome to my new YouTube series called Today Did We? And actually what this is this series is a preview of my new book that's coming out January 31st of 2026. It's called A Home Education Handbook, 9 questions to ask for simple and balanced home-based learning. And so in this YouTube video series, I'm going to be going through those 9 different questions. So today we're going to be talking about the question, today did we create? All right. So what we did in our homeschooling was because I was such a list kind of a person. My list became my slave master, my to-do list and my standards and all those kinds of things. And when I finally eliminated that, because that minutia works in the classroom, that minutia is created for traditional schooling, not for home education. I changed my to-do list to a checklist of 9 questions that I would ask myself either at the end of each day, kind of like reverse planning to kind of like assess our day, or I would ask myself these 9 questions as I was planning our week to make sure that we included these very important, beautiful types of home education activities in our day and in our week. And if I could say yes to all of these questions, or at least to most of these questions, I knew that it was a beautiful, productive, wonderful home educating day. Okay. So, anyway, if you haven't listened to the other YouTube videos that I've done so far, I've talked about today did we problem solve, today did we write, and today did we read. So today I want to be asking the question, did we create? All right. So like I said, this comes from the way that we home educated, but also from my new book that's going to be coming out called A Home Education Handbook. All right. So, ask the question, today did we create? And I mean create anything, everything, or nothing in particular. Okay. So we're not going to be picky about this. All right. So think about this. We were born to create. So as children of God, we are created in God's image, and God is our awesome creator, right? And so because we are born in his image, we are also born to create. We are also creators. Okay. And so it's natural for our kids and for us to want to create things. It makes us feel productive. It makes us feel closer to our image maker. Okay. So we were born to create. So this should be part of our home education experience. It should be a huge part of our kids' day and week. Okay. Don't think of the arts as an extracurricular thing or something that we always have to farm out because maybe you don't know how to play an instrument or you're not a good artist like me. Okay. Let's change our mindset from that creating has to be something formal like that, or that it has to be something that somebody else who's an expert at it teaches our kids. Okay. So we were born to create. We were born to be creative. So make sure you include a lot of time in your day for these types of activities. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have time each day and we have space to create. Now, again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but a lot of times what happens is when moms come home to homeschool or they've been doing it for a while, they're really concerned and confused by how much free time the kids have, because they have in their mind that, well, the kids down the street in traditional school are spending hours, 7 hours, 8 hours a day in school. And yet we're getting like our formal lesson stuff done within an hour to 2 or 3 hours, depending on their age and what they're learning, right? And so we start to feel guilty and we start thinking, I don't think we're doing enough, right? Or they spend more time doing creative things than doing math lessons and spelling words, all right? So it's really okay to include in your day way more time for these creative endeavors, okay? And you want to make sure that you have space for it. Now, we live in a very quaint home, we didn't have space or an extra room to have a formal school room. Actually, this nook behind me, there's a little side thing you can't see. It was actually, I called it our art corner, and I filled up the space there with baskets of art supplies and books, how-to books, and drawing books and music books, and we'll talk about it, functional art types of books, and just all kinds of things, so that they were there to help the kids kind of inspire them. Okay, so make sure that you have space somewhere in your home. Now, like I said, because we live in a very small home, I had like a little art nook center, but I also had in another room a basket that was full of different musical instruments that, you know, the kids could do that. It was by the keyboard, and different musical instruments and things like that. In another part of the house, I had shelves and shelves and shelves of games, and we'll talk about how that helps with their creativity. And I had another part in my daughter's room. I had a dress up bin that just had all kinds of costumes and dress up clothes and things like that, both for her and for my son. And then in my son's room, that's where all the Legos were and the building blocks and all those kinds of things. So don't feel like you have to have this one space or this one room that has all the things for them to be creative. It could be spread out around the home. Okay. And it doesn't have to be expensive. I literally would fill up our art corner with different supplies from the dollar store. And so I would go with $20, $25, and I would just buy what I could, sequins and glitter. Yeah, we were a glitter family, and Play-Doh and little pom-poms and yarn and wooden things and paint and all that kind of stuff. You really can do this on a budget as well. So don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money. Okay. All right. Now, first of all, your kids need to see you be creative. All right. So, yes, you are mom. Yes, you are teacher, but they need to see you exploring other things, things that you love, learning a new skill. During COVID, I took up watercoloring. I am not an artist. I cannot paint, but I thought, you know what? Watercoloring I might be able to do, because it's kind of abstracty, right? It kind of gives the illusion of what this flower is supposed to look like. And so I took up watercoloring. And because of that, because I was watching all these YouTube videos, my daughter came alongside and wanted to do it. Okay. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's learning how to knit or crochet or woodworking, or it's stained glass windows. I had a friend of mine who started a hobby learning how to make soap, and also learning, of course, sourdough bread, but also learning how to do stained glass windows. And so sometimes our kids will get excited about what we're learning how to do, and they want to come alongside and do it with us, or they could care less, but they see us taking the time to be creative and to learn something new. Okay. And then, of course, depending on what it is that you're learning to do, you then can take the finished products to bless other people with it. All right. So the first thing is make sure you have time in your day and your week for your kids to see you being creative. Okay. Now, when I say today did we create, yes, that's art, but it's not just art. Okay. So, but let's talk about the art for a minute, because that's the first thing that we think of. And that's actually what a lot of our kids like to do. Okay. So, yes, that could be painting, that could be watercoloring, that could be drawing, all of the things that we typically think about when it comes to art. All right. Again, you don't have to farm it out. If you're not an artist like me, you can learn alongside your kids. There's so many great YouTube videos. I love Let's Go Make Art with Sarah Cray. She's awesome with watercoloring. I love being a part of the Wild and Free community and subscribe to that website, because they're always dropping these awesome courses that teach you how to watercolor and do different things. And you get bundles in the mail that also show you how to make just different kinds of art things. Okay. But it can also be functional art. And so what I mean by that, that's your woodworking, that's your knitting, that's your crocheting, that's your sewing, that's your cooking. So if your kids spend time anytime during the day cooking with you, creating something new in the kitchen. Maybe it's something to eat, or maybe it was a science experiment, or they're learning how to crochet, or they're making a birthday present, or they're creating their own birthday cards to give to someone, or they're making thank you cards, or they're learning how to brush, what is that called? Brush writing, right? Or calligraphy. Any of that functional art, it's things that your kids can be doing. That's a skill, right? That could also be taking things apart, putting things together. That could be the kid who likes to do car mechanics. That could be the kid who's helping dad build bookshelves or build a new piece of furniture, or maybe you're remodeling the home and the kid is learning how to do flooring and electricity and stuff like that. All of that is being creative. It's learning a new skill that is either very fine art, or it could be a functional type of art. Okay, so if you're able to say today, yes, my kid drew today. Yes, my kid painted today. Yes, my kid learned a new cross stitch today. Or yes, my kid learned how to cook something today in the kitchen. Then you can say, yes, they were creative and it was a great day. Okay. But being creative could also be building and coding. So if your kid loves to build with blocks and with Legos or magnetic tiles, that's being creative. If they like to code, so not just play video games, but actually code to create games. Stop animation, robotics, things like that. That is being creative. It's a technological type of art. Okay. So if they've done anything like that today or this week, you could say, yeah, my kid was creative today. Another form of being creative is photography and videography. So maybe your kid isn't that great with a paintbrush and isn't that great with a drawing tool, but man, they have an eye for photography and they love to take pictures and tell stories through pictures, or they love to tell stories through videography. You know, you've got the next great director and filmmaker living in your home. That's being creative. They're telling stories and they're expressing themselves through photography and through videography. That is being creative. It's a great day if you could say, yes, they've done something like that. It could also be creating new stories. So maybe you've got a writer in the family, not just an illustrator, right? They're creating new lands, new characters, new places to explore, new stories. They're creating their own poetry. They're creating their own music. Let's not forget about our musicians. So if they play the piano, they play the violin, they play the drums, anything that's musically inclined, that's being creative. They're expressing themselves through music and also through games. So not just playing games, but creating new games, right? So my daughter was so good at this. She would take one game that we had and she would completely change it up. So Candyland was never playing Candyland. It was something else. She would change Clue and turn the characters into different characters in different rooms and things like that. Okay. Also outside, give your kids time and space to be their own umpires, to create their own rules, to create their own games with their friends and with their siblings. Okay. That too is being creative. So if you could say, yeah, our kids were outside playing Red Rover or playing a new version of hopscotch, or a new version of tag that they created themselves, or a new form of mafia, then you can say, yeah, our kids were creative today and it was a good day. Another form of being creative is just playing make believe. And little kids are so good at this. They just make up their own imaginary worlds and they live in it for hours at a time. That's being creative. That's using their imagination. If they like to put on their own plays, they like to act out stories. Maybe they're in plays or musical theater. That is being extremely creative. Maybe they're not the ones who want to be on stage, but they're the directors and they're getting their kids or their stuffed animals all involved in creating their own plays and dramas and musicals. Then that's being creative. Also, don't forget about dance and movement. When they create their own choreography and their own dance schemes, that, my friends, is also being very creative. They're expressing themselves either through song, through words, or through dance and movement. Okay. So keep in mind, all of this is being creative because we are made in the image of our God, our creator. And so therefore we were born to create. So all of this, not just the art, is being creative. Okay. Now, let me talk about this real quick. Boredom breeds creativity. So don't be nervous if your kids come to you and say, Mom, I'm bored. It's actually a gift because two great things are going to happen when they come to you and they're complaining they're bored. Either one, your house is going to get cleaned, right? I usually put my kids to work, and that gave them something to do. Or I would send them outside or send them in their room and tell them, go figure out something to do. And sure enough, within 15 minutes, half an hour later, they would come out of their room or they would come from outside and say, Look, Mom, look what I made. Or look, Mom, come see what we did. Because the boredom breeds creativity. It's okay for them to be bored. So don't feel guilty if your kids finish up their quote unquote formal schoolwork and now they've got all this extra free time on their hands. Don't look at it as you're not giving them enough. Look at it as you're now giving them opportunities to find out what they're good at, to pursue their passions, to work on their skills and their gifts that the Lord has given them. Okay. So boredom breeds creativity. Don't be afraid of it. Don't shy away from it. Okay. Now, two of my favorite things to do for boredom busters, besides putting them to work, right? Or then sending them to their rooms and let them wallow in and marinate in their boredom until they come up with something creative to do, is one, send them outdoors. Putting them outside will eliminate boredom immediately. There's just so much to do in the great outdoors, whether it's climbing trees, making mud pies, gardening, just playing, riding their bikes and things like that. Okay. And reading. So when you suggest to your kids, why don't you go read a book, right? If they're not readers yet, give them something to listen to on Audible, or you all sit down for a read aloud at that point, okay? And what reading does is it opens up their imagination to either characters and people that they probably would never meet in real life, or to visit and travel to places that maybe they'll never get to in real life, or it gives them an opportunity to meet people in different cultures that they may not have an opportunity to learn about now or even when they are adults, right? Or they get to go to these cool sci-fi or imaginary worlds, okay? So getting outdoors and reading either independently or listening to Audible or reading aloud as a family are great ways to spark your child's imagination and to help them to build their creativity, okay? Or to tap into their creativity. And then the other thing is to become a master artist of strewing. So if you're not familiar with strewing, I've done a couple of podcast episodes, Coffee with Carrie homeschool podcast on strewing. I've written a couple of articles at my website, coffeewithcarrie.org, about it. And I've got a whole chapter in my new book, A Home Education Handbook, on the art of strewing and how it helps with creativity. But basically, strewing just means to scatter, right? In the Charlotte Mason world, it's spreading a feast in front of your kids and allowing them to partake in the parts of it that they find interesting, right? Look at it as maybe a buffet. You are just you're strewing about, you're scattering things about your house for your kids to discover when they are ready to discover it. And they might have some books around, some puzzles around. You want to strew very open-ended types of things that every time they use it, they can create something different with it. Okay. And one day they may love the puzzles and they want to eat it up, right? Just like when you go to a buffet, maybe one day you really want the turkey, not the prime rib. But another day they may not be interested in that and they go straight for the fresh fruit and the vegetables and things like that on the buffet. All right. So strewing is strategically putting things around your house that invite your kids to use, to make things with, to be creative with, to play with, to read, all that kind of stuff without the pressure of saying, you need to do this or you should do this, you will like this. You just put it out there and you let them discover it. Okay. So strewing things about is a great way to help your kids build up those creativity muscles. Okay. And don't forget, free time is a good thing. It's one of the gifts of homeschooling. It's a beautiful thing to have more time in your day that's free to explore. It's free time to explore the things your kids love, to learn new skills, like I said, to pursue their passions and things like that. All right. So if at the end of the day, you were able to say that your child created something, anything, and I gave you a whole list of things that could be plus more, then it was a really good homeschooling day. Okay. They may not have done 20 math problems. They may not have spelled out 20 spelling words or did a whole spelling list, or they may not have written something in their history notebook. But if they were creative today, then you know that it was a really good homeschooling day. Okay. All right. So like I said, this is my new YouTube series called Today Did We? And I'm going through each of the different questions and chapters in my new book called A Home Education Handbook. 9 questions to ask for simple and balanced home-based learning. Mamas, it will help you change your mindset from doing school at home or homeschooling to home education and what freedom and beauty that comes with it. Okay. And so this is just one of the videos that go in this series. If you would like to buy the book, you can either pre-order it at my website, coffeewithcarrie.org, until the end of January, or beginning February 1st. If you're watching this February 1st or on in 2026, you can buy it at amazon.com. The Audible version will be out soon. The Kindle version is already out. You can pre-order it or get it. So I hope that you will enjoy my new book. I hope you will enjoy this new series. And mamas, go get creative.